So a big question I've been getting lately is which is better? Should you go for the hot pack, go for the heat, or for the ice pack if you have an injury? Well, the short answer is it depends, but I'm going to give you guys a really simple guide on when you want to use heat versus when you want to use ice. So listen up. And of course, before we get going, please subscribe to Riley Rehab because I'm going to be coming with new videos every single week, helping you become the expert of your own body. And with that being said, I'm going to show you guys the whole heat versus cold thing. This is a really debatable subject. A lot of people, a lot of rehab professionals will tell you use heat all the time, and some will say use ice all the time. Everyone has their own kind of ideas with this. But what I'm going to share with you guys is when you want to use heat for sure and when you want to use ice for sure. And the one general thing that I see most people agree with is the first 48 hours after you injure yourself. Now that could mean if I sprained my wrist, for example, or if I rolled my ankle. That first couple days, when all the swelling goes up and your body's really going into kind of survival mode, that's actually when you want to use ice. And the reason for that is because you're going to get a bunch of swelling, you're going to get a lot of inflammation. And while that's a good thing in reasonable amounts, you want to stop it from getting to be too extreme, because if it gets too swollen, it can actually cut off the circulation and make things worse. So what you want to do is you want to ice it, especially if it's swollen during that first 48 hours. If it's like a minor little flare-up of your back pain, you might be able to go either way, but anything where it feels like you just sprained something anywhere in the body, you want to use ice in that first 48 hours. Secondly, if something is swollen, in general, you want to use ice. Now, this is especially true in the first 48 hours, but it does actually, if you are one of those people who has swelling for a longer period of time, I find ice is a little better because if anything is going to reduce the swelling, it's going to be the ice. However, one little caveat to this is I have heard of some people, assuming they're past that first 48 hours, I have heard some people talk about using the ice and then the heat. So they'd put the heat on for 3 minutes. Let's say it's a sprained wrist. You'd put the heat on for 3 minutes, and then right after that, you'd put the ice on for 3 minutes, and then you put the heat on for 3 minutes, and you do this about 5 times. This is a cool thing. It's similar to the contrast bath video. I actually showed another video on how to do a contrast bath on your ankle. I'll post that in the link below. But the big idea with this is it's opening and closing your blood vessels to help basically decrease swelling quicker. So that's one little thing that you might want to do later on. But in general, if there is swelling, I find icing to be a better option. Then the other thing too, this is where it gets a little more arguable. When it becomes a long-term pain thing, when you don't have swelling, you don't have redness or any big inflammation going on, but you just have pain that won't go away, you really can go either way with this. And for me personally, I am much more in favor of heat, but that's my own personal opinion. So this is where you really have to dip and dabble with a bit of both and see what works better for you. Because just like some people like hot weather and some people like cold weather, I don't really understand why people like cold weather. I think they're ridiculous, but just for that exact reason, some people prefer ice because they find it relieves their pain better, where some people prefer the heat, prefer the warming sensation to reduce their pain. You ultimately have to dip and dabble with a bit of both and see which works better. But I will say if your pain is anything longer than a couple days and there's no major swelling, you can really go either way with this. Test them both out, see what works best for you, and go with that. And the last key part I'm going to get into with using ice versus heat is you want to ask yourself, am I or am I not going to be exercising after I do this? Because if you're going to exercise right after, your best bet is to put heat on that. Your best bet is to go for the hot pack, put it on. So for example, if I am going to go for a run, I am better off to put heat on my ankle before I go for that run rather than putting ice on the ankle before going for the run. And this reason is really simple because when you warm up, the whole purpose of a warm-up before running or doing something like that is you're trying to get more circulation to the body. You're trying to warm everything up to make things a lot looser and a lot more, basically get all the blood flowing, reduce your risk of having a future injury. And if you ice yourself before doing it, you're basically cooling down your body. You're doing the opposite of effect of a warm-up before doing the exercise. So if you're planning on doing any kind of physical activity after, assuming it's more than just kind of going for a little walk or things like that, you want to go for the heat. And if you're instead planning on resting, if you're just going to be laying down right after, you can go either way, but follow my rules that I mentioned earlier in this video. So I hope that helped you guys clarify when to use ice versus when to use heat. I personally think there's both a time and place for each of them. You ultimately have to figure out what works best for you. Also, please subscribe if you haven't yet, and I shall see you next time.